Once upon a time, and not so long ago, I was going on a job interview. Now, you can clearly tell from the gray hair and the wrinkles that this was not my first rodeo. I had been teaching a long time, and this was a job at a summer camp with kids. So there isn't really any reason I should have been nervous. But for whatever, I woke up on the morning of the interview and I had that feeling, you know, right there in the pit of your stomach, just roiling around. And as I started to get dressed, I began to think about what could this interviewer possibly ask me that I couldn't answer? And I don't know why, but into my head popped the permanent record. Now, if you went to school in the 60s like I did, especially if you went to Catholic school, you know all about the permanent record. There was always some nun chasing me down the hallway going, "Miss Dangeline, if you're not careful, that's going to go on your permanent record." Well, I didn't really know what the permanent record was or even what it looked like, but I had a picture in my head. You know, it was a manila folder, and it had my name on it, and across the front, in big, bold, black letters, it said, "The Permanent Record." And in high school, things went in your permanent record like your SAT scores and your letters of recommendation for college. You know, they all went in there, and then they took the permanent record and they filed it in a file cabinet somewhere. And if you wanted to go see it, you could, because after all, it was your permanent record. But why would you want to, really? And then, after I graduated from college, I got my teaching job, and of course then you have a file, and your tenure observations, and all of those evaluations go in there, and I pictured it all kind of morphing in together, going into the permanent record and being filed in a file cabinet someplace. And if I wanted to see it, I could, because after all, it was my permanent record. But why would I want it? But now, I was pretty sure that my permanent record wasn't in a file cabinet. I was pretty sure it was a little tiny icon on a computer screen. And because I am not so technologically savvy, you can ask my webmaster, I was pretty sure that everybody else in the world could access my permanent record except for me. And that was the thought I took with me when I went to this job interview. Now, I arrived early, professionally dressed. I waited in the outer office. A woman came and beckoned me in and offered me a seat. Then she went around the desk to take a seat on the other side. While she was walking around the desk, I looked. There were some framed photographs, her family, that was a good sign, and a pile of papers and a computer with the screen facing her. And she sat down and she said, I can see here that you have a wonderful resume and excellent letters of recommendation. And I felt myself take a breath, like the first breath, you know, like you're holding your breath the whole time. And I kind of relaxed. And then she took one finger and she reached across to the keyboard on the computer and tapped it. I see there are some things here we need to discuss from your permanent record. You have my permanent record? Of course I do. I never interview anyone without looking at their permanent record. And I see here that you had some problems with alcohol in the 7th grade. That's on my permanent record? I mean, I can explain about that. It was, well, you know, I was in Catholic school and we were going on a field trip. It was to the nuns' bazaar. And the 7th grade girls decided that we would take alcohol, you know, wine from our parents' liquor cabinets and put them in little tiny empty pill bottles and put them in our lunches and take them on the trip. Did we think we could get away with it? I mean, there were like 500 nuns just roaming everywhere. But really, I said, problems with alcohol? No, I don't have any problems with alcohol. You know, she did that pursing thing with her lips. And then I see here, in the 8th grade, you threw a book out the 2nd-story window and hit the visiting Monsignor on the head. That's in my permanent record? Well, I can explain that. You know, it was a beautiful spring day. We were getting ready for our 8th grade graduation, and the windows were open, and everybody was just tossing things out the window. And I tossed the book out, and I hit Monsignor Hicks on the head, and that was a bonus, a mistake. It was a mistake. I know it was a mistake. And then for just a second, I thought back to that day, because I could remember it like it was yesterday. I could remember Monsignor Hicks coming up those stairs, opening up that classroom door, holding up that book and saying, "Who threw this out the window? If you do not tell me, this class will not graduate." Absolute silence. And I wondered if kids today would be that loyal to their friends. But really, I said, I don't know why that's in my permanent record. This woman couldn't stop. She couldn't help herself. She went all through my high school years, and then she said, "And I see here that senior year, you pulled the male gym teacher into the girls' shower." So this whole interview is going to come down to something I did in 1974 in gym class. Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know why that's in my permanent record either, but see, it was the last day of gym class. We were all completely dressed, and all the girls took Coach, and we pushed him into the shower. And Ann and I were standing closest, so when he got pushed in, well, we kind of got wet too. And it would have been okay if we were wearing our normal green wool plaids, but we were wearing our lovely summer uniforms. Cotton shirtwaist dresses with about 1,000 pinch pleats that had to be ironed every night, and that cute little straw belt. And well, after we all got out of the shower, we kind of looked like the Catholic schoolgirls' version of the wet t-shirt contest. But we were going to class, we were good girls, and we were walking down the hallway, the water squishing in our shoes, when we heard the voice from behind. "Karen and Ann, come with me." We didn't have to turn around. We knew it was Sister Catherine, the principal. She took us to the elevator, and we knew we were going down to the Dean of Discipline's office, when she reached deep into her habit pocket and pulled out the key. And she put it in the panel on the elevator door, and then we knew we were going up to the convent. The elevator doors opened. Ann and I stepped out. Sister Catherine did not. And coming down the long, dark hallway of the convent was Mother Mary Antoine, the oldest nun in the convent. She wore the full habit down to the floor, her face pushed back. She had Coke-bottom bottle glasses, and she walked with 2 canes, and it took her a long time to get to us. And when she finally did, she said, "Girls, come with me." And she took us to a room. "Take off all your clothes." "Okay, sister." And we did. We took off our uniforms and our underwear and our stockings and our shoes, and she put them in this big industrial dryer, and then she gave us what I can only describe as nun wraparounds. And we put them on, and she pushed us out onto the roof of the convent and locked the door and told us to pray for your very souls. Well, it was a beautiful spring day. The boys were practicing baseball. Everybody else was in class, and we were on the roof taking our punishment as good Catholic schoolgirls should. But really, I said, I don't know why that would be in my permanent record. Again, she couldn't help herself. She went all through my college years, how I had dressed the statue of Rosa Mystica in a hula skirt, how I had dropped the keg in the bathtub and broke it. The bathtub, not the keg. There are 2 witnesses to that up there. Raise your hand. There they are. And then she said, "And I see here that these things did not stop when you got your teaching job. What is this about the hairy man?" I guess I have to tell you. I mean, I was a young teacher. I was teaching in a rather poor neighborhood, a school that I loved, with kids and families that I loved, and they decided to transfer me uptown, to the school where all the doctors and lawyers' kids were. And, well, I was a little bit nervous, and I was in my kindergarten room, and the children and I were getting ready for back-to-school night when Nicholas started to cry. "Nicholas, what's the matter? I get to come tonight, right, with Mommy and Daddy?" "Oh, no, Nicholas, you're going to stay home with Grandma, and Mommy and Daddy are going to sit in the little chairs, and I'm going to tell them about what a really good job you're doing in school. No, I have to come." "Well, Nicholas, what's the matter?" "Okay, I don't have to come, because you'll know my dad. He's hairy, hair all over his body, and he sleeps with my mother." "I'll know your dad." So the parents came, and they sat down at the little tables, and they folded their hands. They were absolutely silent, and they looked at me as if I had some special knowledge to impart upon them, which I knew I did not possess. So I thought, okay, they're going to like me or they're not. "Good evening. My name is Karen Pillsworth, and I am your child's kindergarten teacher. And with a hairy man who sleeps with his wife, please stand up." And there was a moment of silence, but then Nicholas's dad stood up and started laughing, and so did everybody else, and I knew it would be okay. And then I stood up, and I put my hand out, and I said, "I can see that this interview is clearly over." And the interviewer stood up, and she took my hand in both of hers, and she looked into my eyes, and she said, "Indeed, this interview is definitely over. And welcome aboard. We have been looking for someone with your sense of humor and sense of adventure. And you can be sure that everything you do here will be dutifully noted in your permanent record." Thank you.